They say blood is thicker than water. But what they don't tell you is that blood can also be poison. My own brother stood in front of a disciplinary judge, smiling like a hero, accusing me of practicing law without a license. He brought our parents as witnesses. They signed affidavits. They swore under oath that I was a fraud, a fake, a criminal. I sat there silent, hands folded, calm, because I knew something they didn't. The judge opened the evidence file my brother had prepared. The one filled with forged documents, fake emails, and manufactured lies designed to destroy my entire career. And then, the judge's face changed. All the color drained from his skin. His hands started shaking. He stood up so fast his chair slammed into the wall behind him. He clutched that file to his chest like it was radioactive. And without saying a word, he walked into his chambers and locked the door. The room went dead silent. My brother's confident smile cracked. My mother looked confused. My father looked annoyed. But me? I leaned back in my chair. And for the first time that day, I allowed myself the smallest smile. Because I knew exactly what was happening behind that door. Judge Nolan Graves wasn't running away from the evidence. He was realizing he'd been lied to by a family he thought he could trust, about a lawyer he already knew was brilliant. My name is Bella Phillips. And this is the story of how my own family tried to bury me alive. And how I made sure they were the ones who ended up 6 feet under. You think you know where this is going? Trust me. You don't single quotes T. ****. Let me take you back. Because you need to understand how deep this betrayal runs. I grew up in the Pierce family. And in our house, perfection wasn't optional. It was mandatory. My father was a cardiothoracic surgeon. The kind of man who held human hearts in his hands and decided whether they kept beating. He walked through life with the arrogance of a god. Cold, clinical, unshakable. My mother? She was his PR manager. Her entire existence revolved around charity galas, silent auctions, and making sure everyone knew the Pierce name stood for excellence. And then there was Ethan, my older brother. The masterpiece. Ethan was everything they wanted. Tall, charming, brilliant. He went to the right schools, joined the right firm, and billed $800 an hour helping pharmaceutical companies explain away their side effects. At family dinners, they glowed when he spoke. They hung on his every word. He was their proof that the Pierce bloodline was superior. And me? I was the glitch, don't get me wrong, I was just as smart, maybe smarter. I graduated summa cum laude. I was on law review. I had offers from the top firms in the country, but I turned them all down because I didn't want to help corporations bury evidence. I didn't want to spend my life in a glass tower defending people who poisoned rivers for profit. I wanted to be a public defender. I wanted to protect the people the system forgot, and my family? They were horrified. The night I told them, my father called my career choice social work in a cheap suit. My mother said I was embarrassing the family name. And Ethan? He laughed. He actually laughed and said I wasn't practicing law. I was cleaning up messes for people who made bad choices. That was the night I walked out. I moved into a tiny apartment. I opened my own firm, Phillips Justice Group. Just me, a beat-up desk, and a dream that maybe, just maybe, I could make a difference. For 6 years, I fought. I won cases everyone said were unwinnable. I kept innocent people out of prison. I built a reputation as the lawyer who didn't bow to power. And my family watched from a distance, waiting for me to fail. Ethan would send me emails, links to articles about solo practitioners going bankrupt, studies on burnout rates among public defenders. Never a word in the message. Just the link. A silent reminder that he was waiting for my collapse. My mother would call once a month asking if I was still in that unsafe office. My father would mention that he knew someone who helped small businesses wind down gracefully. They wanted me to quit, to crawl back, to admit they were right. But I didn't quit. I won. Again and again and again. And 2 months before they filed that complaint, I won the biggest case of my career. I defended a man named Andre Holston against charges of financial fraud. The case was a setup. A corporate hit job. And I destroyed the prosecution in front of Judge Nolan Graves. He even wrote me a note afterward. Called my advocacy rare and told me not to let the system break me. I kept that note in my jacket pocket. Right over my heart. I had no idea I'd need it to save my life. Asterisk, it started with a phone call. My assistant, Raymond, handed me the message on a Tuesday afternoon. Your brother's office called, he said. Ethan wants to meet for coffee. Says it's been too long. I stared at the message. 6 years of radio silence and now Ethan wanted coffee? Every instinct in my body screamed trap. But part of me, the stupid, hopeful part, wondered if maybe, just maybe, he'd seen my name in the news after the Holston trial. Maybe he wanted to congratulate me. Maybe the golden child was finally ready to see me as an equal. I was an idiot. We met at a cafe near his firm. He showed up 15 minutes late, wearing a suit that cost more than my monthly rent. He hugged me. He smiled. He ordered us both lattes. Bella, he said, leaning back in his chair. I've been following your career. That Holston case? Incredible. You absolutely dismantled that prosecution. I felt a flicker of warmth. Thanks, Ethan. That means a lot. You've always been brilliant, he continued. Honestly, I think you're wasted doing criminal defense. You could be making real money. I could probably get you an interview at my firm if you're interested. And there it was, the condescension wrapped in a compliment. I'm happy where I am, I said carefully. He nodded. Of course, I just worry about you, you know? That neighborhood you work in, it's not safe. And mom and dad, they miss you. They're getting older. Don't you think it's time to let go of whatever grudge you're holding? A grudge. As if their years of contempt and dismissal were just a misunderstanding. I'm not holding a grudge, Ethan, I'm just living my own life. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Fair enough, but there's something I need to ask you. Purely out of concern. My stomach tightened. I was reviewing some bar records for a case, he said casually, and I noticed something odd. Your license number 184 to 229, right? It's 18,429, no dash. Right, he waved a hand. Anyway, I noticed that the formatting looked unusual. And I know you passed the bar 10 years ago, but I couldn't find your swearing in ceremony photos anywhere. Do you have those? I just want to make sure everything's in order. You know how the state bar can be. If there's any administrative error, it can snowball into a huge problem. The way he said it, so casual, so concerned. But I saw the trap. He was fishing. Testing me. Trying to plant a seed of doubt. Everything's in order, Ethan. I have all my documentation. Great. He grinned. That's great. I'm so relieved. I'd hate for anything to jeopardize everything you've built. We finished our coffee. He hugged me again. Told me we should do this more often. And as I walked back to my office, I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. Because Ethan wasn't worried about my documentation. He was planning something. 3 days later, the envelope arrived. Certified mail. State Bar of Evergreen. Formal complaint. And when I opened it, I saw 3 signatures at the bottom. Ethan Pierce, Malcolm Pierce, Celeste Pierce. My entire family had just tried to destroy me. And they thought I'd go down without a fight. Asterisk, what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was what Ethan had been doing in the shadows. Because this wasn't just sibling rivalry. This was survival. Ethan had a secret. A $200,000 secret buried in the billing records of Bramwell and Sloan. He'd been padding hours on client accounts, borrowing from retainer funds, moving money around like a shell game, covering his tracks just long enough to avoid the quarterly audits. But the auditors were coming. And Ethan was about to be exposed. He needed a distraction. Something so explosive, so scandalous, that the partners would be too busy managing the fallout to look at his spreadsheets. And that's when he thought of me. If he could prove his own sister was a fraud, a criminal practicing law without a license, he'd be untouchable. The hero who sacrificed his own blood to protect the integrity of the profession. So he built the trap. piece by piece. First, he went to our parents. He sat them down over dinner and spun a story. Told them I'd never actually passed the bar exam, that I'd been faking it for years. That my Holston win was too good to be true, that I must have cut corners. And because they wanted to believe the worst of me, they did. She's going to destroy us, Ethan told them. If this gets out, the Pierce name will be ruined. We have to be the ones to report it. To show we have integrity, they signed the affidavits. Swore under oath that they'd seen evidence of my failure. Next, Ethan needed physical proof. And that's where Kevin came in. Kevin was an IT guy at Ethan's firm, quiet, invisible, and desperate. He owed money to a loan shark. The kind of debt that gets you hurt if you don't pay. Ethan made him an offer. I need a file created. It needs to look old. Like it's from 10 years ago. Can you do that? Kevin could. And he did. He forged a letter from the state bar, backdated to 2012, stating that I had failed the bar exam. He used the correct letterhead, the correct fonts. He even scrubbed the metadata to make it look authentic. Or so he thought. Because Kevin wasn't as good as Ethan believed. The font he used, Garamond Premiere Pro, wasn't released until 3 years after the letter was supposedly written. The PDF version was too advanced for the era. The state seal was too high resolution. But Ethan didn't check. He was too arrogant. Too confident. Next came the emails. Ethan created a dummy account and wrote messages to himself, posing as me. Messages where Bella confessed to never passing the bar. I know I didn't pass, Ethan, but who's going to check? I just need to make some money before I retake it. He printed them out. Crumpled them slightly to make them look red and reread, and then he did the cruelest thing of all. He wrote an email to his managing partner. Subject: Client Acquisition Opportunity. In it, he outlined his plan. Once I was suspended, he'd swoop in and absorb my entire client list. He'd bill their cases to Bramwell and Sloan, generate enough revenue to cover his embezzlement, and walk away looking like a hero. He was going to steal my life's work to pay off his gambling debts. And he truly believed he'd get away with it. I didn't cry when I saw their signatures. I went cold. I called Marianne Crow. She was a legend, the lawyer lawyers call when they're in trouble. When she read the complaint, she didn't flinch. She just looked at me and said, "This is aggressive. If this sticks, you're looking at felony charges." "It's a lie," I said. "I know, but we need to prove it." So we built our case. Raymond, my paralegal, and Tessa, my associate, turned our conference room into a war room. We ordered pizza that went uneaten. We drank coffee until our hands shook. I went to my bank and pulled my original bar exam documents from the safe deposit box. The cream-colored pass letter. The calligraphy certificate. I'd never hung because my office was too small. We laid them side by side with Ethan's forgeries, and that's when Tessa saw it. "Look at the font," she said, holding a magnifying glass over the fake failure letter. The number 4. In standard Garamond, the vertical line crosses the horizontal. But here, it's open at the top. That's Garamond Premiere Pro. So? Raymond asked. So Garamond Premiere Pro wasn't released until 3 years after this letter was supposedly written. We found more. The license number formatting was wrong. The state bar didn't start using dashes and license numbers until 5 years ago. Ethan had used the modern format. Then Marianne brought in Silas, a forensic digital expert. He plugged into his laptop and pulled up the metadata from the forged documents. "Amateurs," Silas muttered. "What did you find?" I asked. The creation date says 2012, but the PDF version is 1.7. That version wasn't adopted by government agencies until 2015. And the state seal? It's 300 DPI. Back in 2012, the seals were only 72 DPI. We had him. But Marianne shook her head. "If we send this to the Bar Council now, Ethan will claim it was an honest mistake. He'll blame a clerk. He'll wiggle out. So what do we do?" I asked. She smiled. It was a cold, dangerous smile. "We let him commit perjury. We let him get on the stand and swear these documents are real, and then we destroy him. It was the most dangerous strategy we could choose. If the judge believed Ethan before we could present our evidence, I'd be suspended immediately. But I was done playing defense. Let's do it. I said. There was one more thing I needed. An insurance policy. I wrote a formal letter to the State Board of Law Examiners. I requested a certified historical verification, a document that required a physical search of the microfiche archives. The hard copies that couldn't be hacked or deleted. I sent Raymond to deliver it by hand. Don't leave until they give you the sealed envelope, I told him. 4 hours later, he texted me. * package secured. ***, good. I replied. **, put it in your safe. Don't bring it to the office. Don't tell anyone you have it. * the night before the hearing. I sat alone in my apartment. I looked at the navy suit I'd wear. I thought about my parents' signatures on that complaint. I thought about the times I'd tried to make them proud, and I realized the sadness was gone. There was only cold, hard clarity. You wanted a trial, Ethan, I whispered to the empty room. Class is in session. ***, the morning of the hearing, Ethan walked in like he owned the room. He was flanked by a young associate and trailed by our parents, who looked like they were attending a funeral. My mother wore gray. My father walked with his head high, refusing to look at me. Ethan set his briefcase down with a loud, authoritative thud. He whispered something to his associate and they both chuckled. They weren't nervous. They thought this was a formality. Judge Nolan Graves entered, and the room shifted. The air grew thinner. He sat down, adjusted his glasses, and looked out at us with eyes that measured the worth of every soul and found them lacking. We are here in the matter of the State Bar versus Bella Phillips, Graves said. Counsel, make your appearances. Ethan stood, buttoning his jacket with a flourish. Ethan Pierce, appearing on behalf of the complaining witnesses. Marianne barely lifted her hand. Marianne Crowe for the respondent. Graves opened the file. Mr. Pierce, you're alleging the respondent has been practicing without a license for 6 years. Proceed. Ethan moved to the lectern. He gripped the sides and adopted a tone of heavy sadness. Your Honor, this is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. Standing here today, accusing my own sister, double quotes, he paused for effect. But the integrity of our profession must come before blood. He began his performance. He told the judge I'd struggled in law school, that I'd failed the bar exam, that I'd cut off contact with the family and vanished, only to resurface running a fraudulent firm. She's been taking money from vulnerable clients, Ethan said, his voice rising, pretending to be something she's not. She's infected the judicial system with fraud on a massive scale. My mother dabbed her eyes. My father nodded solemnly. It was a masterclass in character assassination. Marianne didn't object. She just wrote one word on her legal pad. Wait. When Ethan finally sat down, flushed and triumphant, Judge Graves said, Miss Crowe, does the respondent wish to make a statement? Marianne stood slowly. We reserve our statement, Your Honor. We believe the file speaks for itself. Ethan smirked. He whispered to his associate. They're folding. Judge Graves reached for the thick red folder Ethan had placed on the bench. The, evidence folder. Very well, Graves said. Let's see what we have here. He opened it. The sound of the cover turning was the loudest noise in the room. Graves adjusted his glasses. He looked at the first document, then the second, then the third, the fake failure letter, and then he stopped. His hand froze in midair. His head tilted slightly, like a bird hearing a strange sound. He looked at the name on the paper, Bella Phillips. Then he lifted his head and looked at me. For 1 second, his face was blank. Then recognition slammed into him like a freight train. I saw the memory unlock behind his eyes. He wasn't seeing a defendant anymore. He was seeing the lawyer who had stood in his courtroom 2 months ago. The one who'd cross-examined witnesses until they broke. The one he'd written a note to. Rare advocacy. He looked back down at the paper. The paper that said I was a fraud, but his memory told him I was brilliant. Two things couldn't be true at the same time, and Nolan Graves didn't have hallucinations. His face changed. The boredom evaporated, replaced by cold, terrifying anger. He stood up, violently, and everything fell apart. Asterisk asterisk, Judge Graves grabbed the folder with both hands, clutching it to his chest like it was contaminated. Recess, he barked. His voice was hoarse, strained. Your Honor, Ethan stammered, standing halfway. We haven't even... I said recess. Graves roared. He didn't look at Ethan. He didn't look at the panel members. He turned on his heel and stormed toward his chambers. The door slammed shut behind him. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The room went dead silent. The court reporter stopped typing, hands hovering in midair. The other panel members looked at each other in confusion. Ethan stood frozen, mouth slightly open. He looked at Sterling. Sterling was staring at the closed door with wide, fearful eyes. He looked back at our parents. My mother had stopped crying. She looked confused that my father was frowning, sensing a shift he couldn't name. What just happened? Ethan whispered. He must be disgusted by her, my mother whispered back, loud enough for me to hear. He couldn't even stand to look at the file. Yeah, Ethan said, straightening his tie, trying to convince himself. That's it. This is good. This is good for us. But his voice shook. I leaned back in my chair. I picked up my water glass and took a small sip. Marianne leaned over. He knows, she whispered. Yes, I replied softly. Behind that closed door. I knew exactly what was happening. Judge Graves was pulling up court records from the Holston trial. He was comparing dates. He was realizing that the man in the expensive suit standing at the prosecution table had just tried to gaslight him. 5 minutes stretched into 10. Then 15. Ethan's pen tapping became frantic. Erratic. My mother whispered. Why is he taking so long? It should be a simple rubber stamp. Quiet, Celeste, my father snapped, though his voice lacked its usual command. At exactly 9:25, the door handle turned. Everyone jumped. Judge Graves stepped back into the tribunal. He wasn't carrying the red folder anymore. Instead, he held two objects: a thick manila case file stamped with the Superior Court seal, and a black wooden picture frame. He didn't sit down. He walked to the front of the bench and stood there, towering over us. He placed the framed document in the center of the bench. Facing outward. It was the jury verdict form from People v. Andre Holston. The case had won 2 months ago. Graves leaned forward, hands on the bench. The veins in his neck were visible. Mr. Pierce, he said, his voice terrifyingly quiet. Do you know what this is? Ethan blinked. I'm not sure, Your Honor. Is that a memento? It's a reminder, Graves said. It's the verdict form from a trial I presided over 2 months ago. One of the finest displays of criminal defense advocacy I've witnessed in 30 years on the bench. Ethan looked at the frame, then at me, then back at the judge. He didn't understand. I failed to see how a past case is relevant. The attorney who won that verdict, Graves cut him off, his voice rising, was Bella Phillips. The name hung in the air. My mother gasped audibly. Graves picked up the manila file and slammed it on the desk. And now, he said, you stand in my tribunal, under oath, and tell me that the woman who performed that work has never passed the bar exam? Ethan's face went pale, and I allowed myself the smallest smile. The trap had sprung. Asterisk asterisk. Ethan tried to recover. He couldn't afford not to. Your Honor, he said, his voice taking on a desperate edge. That's exactly the point. She's a con artist. She fooled you just like she fooled her clients. Being good at acting like a lawyer doesn't mean she is one. The official records, Graves repeated slowly, like he was tasting spoiled milk. Yes, Ethan insisted, pointing to where his red folder used to be. The State Bar's own records show she failed in 2012. You can't argue with documentation. I'm not arguing, Graves said coldly. I'm cross-referencing. He opened the manila file he'd brought from Chambers. During the recess, Graves said, his voice turning to ice, I contacted the director of the Office of Attorney Admission. I didn't check the public website, Mr. Pierce. I had them pull the physical microfiche from the vault. The hard copies that can't be hacked or deleted. Ethan froze. The blood drained from his face so fast it looked like a medical event. And do you know what I found? Graves asked. He pulled a document from the file of fax, the ink still fresh. License. Number 18,429. Graves read aloud. Issued November 2012. Status. Active. Good standing. No disciplinary history. Owner, Bella Phillips. He held the paper up. She is a lawyer, Mr. Pierce. She has been a lawyer for 6 years. She is, in fact, a better lawyer than the one standing in front of me right now. The room spun. The panel members who'd looked at me with suspicion an hour ago were now looking at Ethan with horror. That's impossible, Ethan stammered. There must be a mistake. Our investigator found the letter. Ah, yes, Graves said. The letter. He reached under the bench and pulled out the red folder, Ethan's evidence, holding it with 2 fingers like it was contaminated. I looked at your letter, Mr. Pierce, and because I've been a judge in this state for a very long time, I noticed something. He opened the folder and pointed to the failure notice. This signature at the bottom, the signature of the State Bar Administrator. It reads Thomas J. Miller. Tom Miller retired in 2010. He moved to Florida. Graves leaned forward, his face inches from the microphone. The administrator in 2012, the year you claim this letter was written, was Sarah Jenkins. I know this because I swore her in. Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. So, Graves said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. We have a problem. You've submitted a document dated 2012, signed by a man who left office in 2010. He flipped to the emails Ethan had forged. And these emails contain metadata timestamps that don't match the server protocols used by the provider listed in the header. He closed the folder, gently, with the finality of a coffin lid. This is no longer a disciplinary hearing for Miss Phillips, Graves announced. Strike the charges. Dismissal with prejudice. Then he looked at Ethan. This is now a crime. Scene. Ethan gripped the lectern. His knuckles were white. He looked like a man who'd just stepped off a curb and realized too late that a bus was coming. Your Honor, Sterling squeaked from the side table, backing away from Ethan. I was just retained. As local counsel. I had no part. Sit down, counsel. Graves snapped. Unless you want to be joined in the sanctions. Sterling sat so hard his chair rattled. Graves turned his gaze to the gallery. To my parents, and the reckoning had only just begun. Judge Graves stared at my parents like they were exhibits in a crime scene. Dr. Pierce, Mrs. Pierce, he said. You signed affidavits. Sworn statements. You stated under penalty of perjury that you had personal knowledge of your daughter's failure to pass the bar. You stated you saw the letter 10 years ago. My father cleared his throat. We relied on our son. Ethan told us he'd checked. He showed us the papers. So you didn't see the letter 10 years ago? Graves asked. We might have been confused about the dates, my mother whispered. It was so long ago. Ethan said he found the copy. We just wanted to support him. You thought destroying your daughter's career based on hearsay was the right thing? Graves asked. We were protecting the family name? My father blurted out, his arrogance flaring. If she was a fraud, we had to distance ourselves. We couldn't have that scandal attached to us. So you signed a legal document accusing her of a felony. Without verifying a single fact, Graves said. You let your son weaponize your signatures. We trusted him, my mother cried. Not anymore, Graves said coldly. Signing a false affidavit is perjury. Conspiring to submit false evidence is a crime. You are not victims here. You are accomplices. My parents looked at each other. For the first time, the unity of their marriage fractured. My father looked at my mother with blame. My mother looked at Ethan with horror. The perfect facade of the Pierce family was dissolving into sludge. But we're not done, Marianne said, standing. She pulled out a single sheet of paper and placed it on the projector. This, Marianne said, is an email recovered from the Bramwell and Sloan internal server, sent by Ethan Pierce to the senior managing partner 3 days ago. The email appeared on the screen, magnified for all to see, *** subject. Client acquisition opportunity *** re. Phillips Justice Group *** Bob, regarding the audit issues in the chemical account, I have a solution. My sister is about to be suspended. I've arranged for the disciplinary action to hit this week. Once she's out of the way, I've prepared a transition packet for her entire client list. She has 3 high-value class action suits pending. If we absorb her practice under the guise of assisting a troubled family member, we can bill those hours to our firm. The revenue will more than cover the deficit in my escrow account before the auditors arrive next Monday. The collective gasp in the room sucked the oxygen out. It wasn't just jealousy. It was theft. Judge Graves stood. He looked at Ethan with an expression that went beyond anger. You were stealing from your own firm, Graves said. And you decided to frame your sister to pay back the debt. Ethan was shaking violently. The exposure was total. It wasn't my idea, Ethan screamed, his voice shrill and animalistic. He pointed at our parents. It was them. They pushed me. They said she was an embarrassment. They told me to do whatever it took to shut her down. Ethan, my father shouted, standing up. How dare you? And it was Kevin. Ethan shrieked, pivoting wildly. The IT guy. He said he could make it look real. He told me the metadata would be scrubbed. He messed it up. He's the incompetent one. He ruined everything. I watched him, the golden boy, the heir apparent, the pride of the Pierce dynasty. He was sobbing, screaming, blaming everyone, showing the world exactly who he was. A child who'd never taken responsibility for a single action in his life. That's enough, Judge Graves said. He motioned to the deputies. Take him into custody. 2 deputies stepped forward and grabbed Ethan by the arms. He tried to pull away, his expensive suit bunching up, his tie askew. You can't do this, Ethan yelled. I'm a partner. I'm a Pierce. Dad, do something. Call the governor. Call someone. My father sat down. He put his head in his hands. He didn't look up. He knew no phone call could fix this. The email had proven Ethan wasn't just a liar. He was a thief who'd planned to defraud his own partners. Bramwell and Sloan wouldn't save him. They'd bury him to save themselves. The deputies dragged Ethan toward the door. He was still screaming. Bella! He shouted, his voice raw. Bella, wait! You have to talk to them. Tell them it was a joke, Bella. I didn't turn around. I looked at the screen. At the email where he'd priced out my career like a used car he intended to sell for parts. It's not a joke. Ethan, I thought. It's the verdict. The door slammed shut, cutting off his screams. The silence that rushed back was heavy. But for the first time in my life, it felt clean. Judge Graves looked at me. Then at my parents sitting like statues in the ruins of their reputation. This hearing is adjourned, he said. Miss Phillips, you are free to go. And good luck with your trial. Tomorrow. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. I stood. I picked up my briefcase. I walked past my parents. My mother reached out a hand, fingers trembling, trying to touch my sleeve. Bella, she whispered. We didn't know he was stealing. I stepped out of her reach. I didn't stop. I walked out of the tribunal, down the long marble hallway, and out into the bright, blinding sunlight. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of exhaust and city grit, and it was the sweetest thing I'd ever tasted. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more thing I needed to do. Marianne met me on the courthouse steps. She handed me a thin stack of documents. Cease and desist, she said, and petition for a permanent restraining order. I looked at the papers. They were already prepared. All I had to do was sign. Are you sure? Marianne asked. I thought about the years of condescension. The mocking emails. The dinner where they told me I was an embarrassment. I thought about their signatures on that complaint. And I realized this wasn't about revenge. This was about boundaries. I'm sure, I said. I signed my name. Bella Phillips. The ink flowed smoothly. Black and permanent. An hour later, a process server knocked on the door of my parents' house. They answered together, still dressed in the gray clothes they'd worn to the hearing. Malcolm Pierce? Celeste Pierce? Yes? You've been served. He handed them the restraining order. My father read it, his hands shaking. She's suing us for harassment. Protecting her client from hostile witnesses in an active criminal investigation. The server corrected. He walked away. My parents stood in the doorway of their mansion, holding the papers that legally barred them from contacting their daughter ever again. The Pierce name, the one they'd spent their entire lives building, was now synonymous with fraud, perjury, and betrayal, and I was finally completely free. ***, I didn't go home that night. I went back to my office. Raymond and Tessa were waiting for me, grinning. We saw the news, Raymond said. You're a legend. I'm a lawyer, I corrected, and we have work to do. 3 new clients called while you were in court, Tessa said. I smiled. Then let's get started. ***, the news broke within hours. Prominent attorney arrested for fabricating evidence against sister. Pierce family scandal. Corporate lawyer charged with perjury, embezzlement. Solo practitioner vindicated after family's failed frame job. My phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, clients, other lawyers, wanting to congratulate me. But the call that mattered most came 3 days later. It was from Judge Graves' chambers. Miss Phillips, his clerk said. Judge Graves would like to see you. Are you available this afternoon? I arrived at 2 p.m. His chambers were exactly what I expected. Wood-paneled, lined with law books, smelling faintly of pipe tobacco. Graves sat behind his desk. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. I sat. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he slid a folder across the desk. Your brother's preliminary hearing is next week, he said. The DA is charging him with perjury, submission of false evidence, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Your parents are being charged as accomplices. I didn't react. I just listened. Ethan's firm fired him, Graves continued. They're cooperating with the investigation to avoid being named co-conspirators. The ID guy Kevin flipped. He's testifying against Ethan in exchange for immunity. He leaned back in his chair. Your brother is looking at 5 to 10 years. Your parents will likely get probation and community service, but their reputations are destroyed. I nodded slowly. Good. Graves raised an eyebrow. No regrets? None, I said. They tried to destroy me. They got what they earned. He smiled. It was a rare, genuine smile. You're going to be a hell of a lawyer, Miss Phillips. You already are. Thank you, Your Honor. One more thing, he said, pulling out another document. The State Bar wants to issue a formal commendation for your conduct during the hearing. For your professionalism under attack. I stared at the paper. A commendation. From the same institution my family had tried to weaponize against me. They also want to know if you'd be interested in serving on the disciplinary panel, Graves added. We could use someone who actually understands what integrity looks like. I thought about it. Sitting on the panel that almost destroyed me. Protecting other lawyers from the kind of abuse I'd endured. I'd be honored. I said. 2 weeks later, I was back in court, not as a defendant. As a defense attorney. My client was a young woman accused of shoplifting. The evidence was weak. The prosecutor was lazy. I cross-examined the loss prevention officer. I found inconsistencies in the timestamps. I showed the jury that my client was on camera in a different part of the store when the alleged theft occurred. The jury acquitted her in 30 minutes. As I packed my briefcase, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Andre Holston, the man I'd defended 2 months ago. The case that had set all of this in motion. Miss Phillips, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I saw the news. I heard what your family tried to do to you. It's over now, I said. I just want you to. No, he continued. You saved my life. And you saved it again by standing up to them. You're a hero. I smiled. I'm not a hero, Mr. Holston. I'm just a lawyer who refuses to quit. He shook my hand. That's the same thing. I walked out of the courthouse that day with my head high. The Pierce name was in ruins. But the name Bella Phillips? That name meant something. Asterisk asterisk 6 months later, I received 3 letters. The first was from Ethan, written from a county jail, awaiting sentencing. Asterisk Bella. Asterisk asterisk, I know you probably won't read this. I know you have every right to hate me. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I was desperate. I was drowning. I made terrible choices and I tried to drag you down with me. Asterisk asterisk, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I hope one day you can understand that I wasn't trying to destroy you. I was trying to save myself. I failed. Your brother, asterisk asterisk, Ethan asterisk, I read it once. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Asterisk asterisk the second letter was from my mother. Asterisk Bella, asterisk asterisk, I don't know how to begin. Your father and I have spent every day since the hearing trying to understand what we did wrong. We thought we were protecting the family. We thought Ethan was telling the truth. Asterisk, asterisk, we were wrong. Asterisk, asterisk, we failed you as parents. We failed you as people. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to make that right. Asterisk, asterisk, I miss you. I miss the daughter I never took the time to truly see. Asterisk, asterisk, if you ever find it in your heart to speak to us again, we'll be here. Love, Mom, asterisk, I read it twice, then I put it in the same drawer as Ethan's letter. I didn't respond to that one either. Asterisk, asterisk, the third letter wasn't from my family. It was from a woman named Sarah Jennings, the former state bar administrator whose name should have been on the forged letter. Asterisk, Miss Phillips. Asterisk, asterisk, I read about your case in the news. I want you to know how deeply sorry I'm that my name, or rather, the absence of my name, was used as part of the scheme against you. Asterisk, asterisk, I've spent 30 years protecting the integrity of this profession. The idea that someone would forge official documents to destroy a fellow attorney is unconscionable. Asterisk, asterisk, you fought back. You won. And in doing so, you reminded everyone what this profession is supposed to be about. I'm proud of you. With deepest respect, asterisk, asterisk, Sarah Jennings, asterisk, I read that letter 3 times. Then I framed it and hung it on the wall of my office, right next to the note Judge Graves had given me after the Holston trial. 2 pieces of paper. 2 reminders. One said, do not let this city break you. The other said, you reminded everyone what this profession is supposed to be about. I looked at them every morning before I started work, and they reminded me why I kept fighting. A year later, Ethan was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. My parents were sentenced to 2 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. The Pierce family name, once synonymous with excellence, was now a cautionary tale, and me? I kept working. I kept winning cases. I kept defending people the world had given up on. Because that's what I was always meant to do. Not to live up to the Pierce name, but to build something better. Something that was entirely my own. Phillips Justice Group wasn't just a law firm anymore. It was proof that you don't need a family legacy to build a legacy. You just need the courage to stand alone. And I had plenty of that. Asterisk, asterisk, so that's my story. The story of how my own brother, with the help of my parents, tried to destroy my career, my reputation, and my life. And how I made sure they were the ones who paid the price. People ask me all the time if I regret it. If I wish I'd just walked away. If I wish I'd forgiven them. And my answer is always the same. No. Because forgiveness without accountability is just permission to hurt you again. My family thought they could use the law as a weapon. They thought they could manipulate the system to bury me. But they forgot one thing. I am the law. I live it. I breathe it. I understand it better than they ever could. And when you try to weaponize something against someone who knows it better than you lose. Every single time. *** today. Phillips Justice Group is thriving. We've won cases no one thought were winnable. We've kept innocent people out of prison. We've held the powerful accountable. And I've never been prouder. Because I didn't just survive my family's betrayal. I turned it into fuel. ***. So if you're watching this and you're going through something similar, if your own family has turned on you, if people you trusted have betrayed you, if you feel like you're fighting the world alone, let me tell you something. You're stronger than you think. And sometimes the best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's proving them wrong. ***. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. Subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories for more true tales of betrayal, justice, and triumph. And drop a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from and what you thought of Ethan's downfall. Until next time, stay strong, stay sharp. And never let anyone convince you that you're less than you are. This is Bella Phillips, signing off.